She left her old self behind. Years later, she returned with a letter that changed everything. They used to whisper when she walked by. Too big, too plain, too forgettable. But she heard them. Every word. And one day she stopped crying and started becoming the woman they never saw coming. What she didn't know? That the man who ruled the city would fall. Not for her looks, but for her courage. Stay to the end. Because this isn't just a glow-up story. It's a reminder. Self-love is the most dangerous thing a woman can wear. Section 1. The mirror was never kind to Emma Hayes. Not because it lied, but because it told the truth too loudly. 28. 2 jobs. 1 body she'd been taught to hate since middle school. Every curve felt like a punchline. Every bite came with guilt. Every compliment felt like a setup. So she stopped looking, stopped trying, started surviving instead of living. Emma's life was quiet. She worked front desk at a wellness center in Midtown Manhattan. Ironic, really. Everyone around her lived on protein shakes, spin classes, and curated selfies. Emma? She drank cheap coffee, wore loose black cardigans, and smiled politely from behind the desk. Invisible. Until one Tuesday morning changed everything. He walked in like thunder. Custom suit. Sharp jaw. Eyes so cold they could have iced her coffee. Damian Wolf. Founder, CEO. The man behind Wolf Tech. A billion-dollar beast in the digital wellness space. And that morning his usual assistant was sick. So Emma stood to help him. And dropped an entire tray of green juices onto his $4,000 0-cent loafers. Time slowed. The room fell silent. Emma's cheeks burned, her voice caught. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Wolf. He looked down, then up, not at her body, not at the mess, but right into her eyes. And then, a small sharp laugh. "Remind me to never let you near caffeine again." He said it like a joke. But he didn't walk away. He picked up the tray with her, wiped his shoes, smiled like it didn't matter, and said simply, "What's your name?" It wasn't love at first sight. It was the first time in a long time someone saw her and didn't flinch. And Emma went home that night different. Still messy, still soft, still unsure. But something in her cracked open. And something else started to rise. It wasn't about impressing him. Not really. It was about standing straighter, eating better, moving more. Not for a man, for herself. The next day, she asked a trainer at work to show her how to use the rowing machine. The day after that, she skipped her usual donut. 3 weeks later, she bought her first pair of sneakers, not chosen for comfort, but for hope. And slowly, the mirror started whispering different things. Emma lost 30 pounds in 5 months. But she gained more than she shed. She laughed louder, walked taller, looked people in the eye again. And Damien? He noticed. Not just the change, but the way she never once begged for attention. One evening she found a note slipped under her keyboard. "Green juice tomorrow. Want to help me choose a flavor that doesn't taste like regret? D." She laughed. And for the first time in her life, she said yes to something that scared her. He turned to her, studied her face. "Not possible," he said softly. And she believed him, even if just for a second. From that day, they kept bumping into each other. On purpose? Maybe. Coincidence? Who knows? But it kept happening. He'd sent her little things. A new flavor to try. A post-it with a joke. One morning, she found a book on her desk. The Body Keeps the Score, with a note tucked inside. Thought this might resonate, not because of what you've been through, but because of what you've survived. D. She cried in the break room that day. Silently, gratefully. But even as the connection grew, so did the fear. Emma stood in her room one night, staring at herself in the mirror. Down 42 pounds now. Stronger. Braver. But still her. Still, the same girl who'd been ignored for years. She whispered, "Why would someone like him see someone like me?" And the answer came not from the mirror, but from her heart. Because maybe he sees what I'm finally seeing too. One Thursday, Damien invited her to lunch. Not in a conference room, not with assistants. Just him and her. They went to a small bistro downtown. No one recognized him, no press, no masks. She ordered pasta without apologizing for it. He ordered wine and told her about his mom's obsession with crossword puzzles. They talked for 2 hours. About everything and nothing. And when the check came, he didn't offer to pay. He insisted. Not because she needed rescuing, but because he wanted to treat her and made no performance of it. Just kindness. Simple, human. As they walked out, he held the door for her. And for a moment their hands brushed. She looked up at him, heart skipping. He opened his mouth like he wanted to say something. But then someone called his name. A woman. Tall, sculpted, designer everything. "Damien, hey, it's been forever." His whole posture changed. Guarded, polished, cold again. He nodded politely, exchanged small talk, introduced Emma as a friend from work. And just like that, Emma felt small again. Back at her apartment, she kicked off her shoes, wiped her lipstick, and stared at her reflection. That old voice crept back in. "See, you're still not good enough for his world." But she shook her head. No, not this time, because she was tired of waiting to feel worthy. She already was. And if Damien didn't see it, they should keep walking anyway. But that night, he called. Voice quiet. "Hanbo." "I'm sorry," he said, "for how I introduced you." Emma didn't respond. "I panicked," he continued, "not because of you, because of me." Another pause. "I've never had something real that wasn't built for the cameras. You make me feel too real sometimes." Emma finally spoke. "That's not something to apologize for." "I'm not," he said. "I'm saying thank you." Then, softly, "I notice you, Emma, even when you try to disappear. Especially then." And that was the day she knew. He wasn't falling for the body, or the smile, or the transformation. He was falling for her. The girl who stayed up late with her mom on hard nights. The woman who rebuilt herself piece by piece. The heart that kept showing up, bruised but unbroken. Segment 3. She was never a project. Emma almost didn't go. The invitation had arrived in an email. Formal, crisp, digital gold. WolfTech Annual Innovation Gala. Black tie press expected. Doors open at 6:00 p.m. sharp. The kind of event that lived on magazine covers and LinkedIn feeds. The kind of room she'd spent her whole life avoiding. But Damien asked her to be there. "Me," he'd said, "not as a guest, as someone I want beside me." And that was new. Not being tolerated, not being hidden, being chosen. So she went. The dress was borrowed from her friend Leah, who worked at a bridal shop and insisted that deep emerald would make Emma's skin look like velvet in candlelight. "You walk into that room and every woman will wonder why they never wore green," Leah said, zipping her in. Emma tried to laugh, but her heart was a war drum. The moment she stepped out of the car, flashes exploded like lightning. Damien was already at the entrance. He turned and everything else blurred. He stared like he was seeing the northern lights for the first time. "You look," he whispered. Emma smiled, nervous. "Different?" "No," he said. "Exactly like yourself, finally." The ballroom sparkled like a bottle of champagne. Crystal chandeliers. Curved staircases. Tuxedos and designer gowns that cost more than her rent. Damien took her hand as they walked through the main hall. Not for show, not for security, for reassurance. And for the first time since arriving, Emma exhaled. Until she heard it. A whisper. Familiar. Sharp. Targeted. Is that the receptionist? I didn't recognize her without the bulk. Damien always did love a charity case. Emma froze. It wasn't just the words. It was the tone. The kind that dripped with judgment wrapped in perfume. She didn't turn around. Didn't confront them. She just stared at the wine glass in her hand. Trembling, Damien noticed. Oh, of course he did. He leaned in. You okay? Emma nodded, too fast. Yeah, sure. Just need some air. She stepped away before he could stop her. She found a quiet balcony and collapsed onto a bench. Chest tight, hands shaking, because no matter how much weight she lost, how much stronger she became, some people would always see her as who she used to be. And worse, a part of her still believed them. She didn't hear the door open, but she felt it. Damien sat beside her, silent for a beat. Then, you know I used to be poor, right? She blinked. Really poor. Lived in the back of a dry cleaner's until I was 17, worked nights, studied in the boiler room. Emma turned to him, confused. He smiled softly. I know what it feels like, to walk into rooms like this and wonder if someone will expose you, remind you that you weren't always polished. She swallowed. But you don't carry it. I do, he said. I just carry it differently now. He reached for her hand. You don't owe anyone the version of you they knew before. You're allowed to be new. Emma's eyes stung. Not because of the insult, but because of the kindness. Because he got it. More than anyone ever had. But they'll keep saying things, she whispered. Damien nodded. They will, but I won't let them rewrite your story. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a small velvet pouch. Emma stared. What is that? He opened it. Inside, a bracelet. Simple, delicate, silver. But on the inside of the clasp, engraved in tiny cursive. Not a project, a force. Emma stared at it like it wasn't real. I had it made, he said quietly. After the first time you told me no. You didn't know it, but that was the moment I realized you weren't here to please anyone. He clasped it onto her wrist and kissed her knuckles. Not like a prince, but like a man in awe of the woman beside him. Back inside they danced. Emma's chin rested on his shoulder. The whispers didn't stop. But for once, they didn't reach her, because love was louder now, because truth was stronger, because she wasn't hiding anymore. The next day, a tabloid ran a photo of them under the headline, Wolf's New Flame, the former receptionist who stole his heart. Emma read the comments. Some cool, some confused. But one, just one, read. If this is what self-love looks like, I want whatever she's having. Emma closed the article, looked at herself in the mirror. Still curvy, still imperfect, still healing. But her eyes? Clear, unapologetic. And finally, enough. Section 4, when confidence wears her name. Emma never meant to be seen. Not like this. Not with her name on a panel flyer. Not with strangers emailing the front desk just to ask, is this the same Emma from WolfTech? But that's what happened when Damien shared a photo of her at the gala. No caption, no hashtags, just her standing alone, smiling off camera in that deep emerald gown. And yet, the post went viral. The comments came fast. Who is she? This is the first time I've seen someone who looks like me in a dress like that. She's not a size 2 and she's stunning. I need to know her story. Emma saw it the next morning over oatmeal. She nearly dropped her spoon. Damien walked into the kitchen, still sleepy, tie in one hand, phone in the other. He leaned down, kissed her temple, and said casually, Your post broke 4 million views. Emma blinked. My post? Okay, our post, but trust me, they weren't looking at me. She shook her head. I'm not an influencer. No, he said, pouring coffee. You're something better. That's when the email arrived. From Wolf Tech HR. CC'd to Damien. Would Emma Hayes consider speaking on the upcoming Women in Wellness panel? We believe her journey would inspire others inside and outside the company. Topic: Confidence through change. Emma stared at the screen for a long time, then closed the laptop. Not a chance, she muttered. Later that night, she stood in front of the bathroom mirror. Freshly showered, hair in a towel, no makeup. Her body had changed. Her face had softened. But the fear? Still there, she whispered. Who do you think you are? And then, without expecting an answer, she heard it from behind her. Damien's voice. Soft. Steady. You're Emma. The girl who rebuilt herself without applause. Who showed up when no one asked. Who made me believe in real things again. She turned. He was leaning on the doorway, arms crossed, barefoot. You think I can do this? She asked. I know you can. She looked back in the mirror. But this time, she saw what he saw. Emma said yes. Not because she was ready, but because maybe readiness wasn't the point. Maybe courage looked more like this. Shaky hands, a borrowed blazer, a speech scribbled in the Notes app on her phone. The day of the panel arrived. It was hosted at Wolf Tech's downtown campus. Dozens of women filled the event hall, some in power suits, others in leggings and sneakers. Emma stood backstage, her heart a jackhammer. Damien wasn't with her. She'd asked him not to come. I need to do this on my own, she'd said. And he respected her enough to listen. When her name was called, she stepped into the light. The room was quiet. She adjusted the mic, cleared her throat. Hi, I'm Emma Hayes. A year ago, I was sitting behind a front desk, hiding in my cardigan, hoping no one would look at me too closely. I didn't lose weight for love, I didn't change for attention, I changed because I got tired of apologizing for taking up space. A pause. Some nods, one woman wiped her eye. Emma continued. Confidence didn't come when the number on the scale dropped. It came when I stopped asking for permission to exist. I'm still learning, still healing, but I no longer shrink to fit into anyone else's world. She smiled then. For real. Because I'm finally building one of my own. The room stood in ovation. Not for the makeover, but for the message. Afterward, a young woman approached her. Tears in her eyes. Soft belly, pink hair, shy smile. I thought I was the only one who felt invisible. Thank you for reminding me that I don't have to stay that way. Emma hugged her. And in that moment, it hit her. She wasn't just surviving anymore. She was leading. That night, Damien was waiting at home with takeout and 2 glasses of wine. She opened the door, tossed her heels aside, and collapsed into his arms. Well, he asked. She grinned. I think I said something that mattered. You always do, he whispered into her hair. They just finally heard it. Later, he reached into his coat pocket, handed her a small box. Inside, a necklace. Simple. Gold. One word carved into the charm. Worth. She held it to her chest. Eyes wet. I don't know what I did to deserve you. He kissed her palm. No, Em. I'm the one still catching up to you. Section 5. Before and after, don't tell you everything. Emma didn't cry when she saw the photo. She didn't scream. She just stopped breathing. It was a full-page spread. A glossy headline with jagged edges. From 40 to Flawless, Damien Wolf's girlfriend before the glam. You won't believe what she used to look like. There it was, her old self. An unflattering candid from over a year ago. Baggy clothes, dark under eyes, mid-blink. The caption underneath read, Damien Wolf's girlfriend proves anyone can glow up if they catch the right billionaire. The article didn't care about facts. It didn't mention her job, or her panel, or her mother's illness, her double shifts, her journey. Just the before and the after, as if her life could be measured in pounds and posture. Emma read it 3 times, then closed the tab. She didn't want Damien to see it. She didn't want anyone to. But it was already everywhere. By noon, her phone buzzed with dozens of texts. Friends, co-workers, strangers, some supportive, some apologetic, some just shocked. "You don't look like the same person." They had no right. "You're so lucky now." Lucky, as if what she had was some magic gift. Not 1,000 hard choices made in silence. Damien showed up that evening with takeout. Again, his version of flowers. But the look on his face told her he'd seen it too. "I wanted to call the editor," he said, pacing. "I still might. This is disgusting. Irresponsible. You deserve—" "I know," Emma said quietly. She didn't ask for revenge. She just sat at the kitchen counter staring at her own hands. "I just didn't expect it to feel like this." "Like what?" "Like I'm a museum exhibit, a sideshow." Damien exhaled, walked to her, knelt in front of her, and said, "You were beautiful then. You're beautiful now. And none of that has a damn thing to do with me." Emma looked at him. "No one talks about what it's like to grieve your before self," she whispered. "What do you mean?" "She's in that photo, that girl who didn't know what to do with her pain, who thought love was for later, after she became someone else. I hated her for so long." She paused, voice trembling. "But today, I just miss her." Damien nodded, sat on the floor beside her, and said nothing, just held her hand as she let herself feel it all. The next day, Emma posted a photo, not a filter, not a full face of makeup, just her, in sweats, hair messy, eyes clear, and this caption, "This is me. Before, after, in between." The girl in the before picture didn't need fixing. She needed grace. She needed rest. She needed time. So, to the world that only wants a glow-up, I'm not your success story. On my own. The post exploded. Not viral in the tabloid sense, but in the real sense. The human sense. Thousands of women shared it. Thousands more saved it. And for the first time, Emma realized she wasn't alone. A week later, she was invited to speak on a new podcast, a women's wellness series called Unfiltered Growth. The host said, "We'd love you to talk about how you handle the pressure of before and after, because your story's more than that." Emma smiled. For once, she agreed. That night, Damien came home late. Emma was on the couch with a blanket, a journal, and a bowl of popcorn. He looked at her like she was the answer to every impossible question. "I heard your post broke 1 million shares," he said, kissing her forehead. "I wasn't trying to be brave," she whispered. "You weren't trying to be anything," he replied. "You were just being you, and that's what made it brave." She looked down at her bracelet. "Not a project, a force," and whispered back, "I believe it now." Section 6. The day she spoke for them all. The studio lights were brighter than Emma expected. Not harsh, just exposing. She sat in a velvet chair across from the host of Rise Today, the one-morning talk show for women in America. Her name had become a quiet storm, shared between friends, whispered in group chats, reposted on Instagram stories like a lifeline. Not because she was famous, but because she was real. And real had become a rare kind of beautiful. Behind the cameras, Damien sat off stage. Silent, still. Not as a CEO. Not as a boyfriend. Just as her anchor. The interview started warmly. They talked about her journey, the panel, the viral post, the bracelet, the before photo. Then came the moment, the one everyone would talk about after. The host leaned forward, voice gentle but piercing. "Emma, do you ever wonder if Damien would have noticed you before the weight loss?" The question wasn't cruel, but it was heavy. The studio held its breath. Damien's chest clenched. Emma didn't flinch. She took a breath, then another, and then, I used to wonder that every single day. The host blinked, startled by the honesty. Emma continued, I used to believe I had to earn love, that I had to shrink to be worthy. But that belief didn't come from Damien. It came from years of being told my softness made me invisible. Damien didn't save me. He didn't rescue me. He saw me because I finally started seeing myself. The host paused, visibly moved. Emma wasn't done. The truth is, if someone only loves you at your after, they don't deserve your always. And if I hadn't lost a single pound, I still believe the right person would have found me. The crowd erupted, not in applause, in silence. The kind that says thank you for saying what we couldn't find the words for. After the segment aired, the inbox at Wolf Tech overflowed, not with business proposals, with letters, women in their 40s, 50s, 60s. I stood in the back of every room because I didn't feel enough until I saw you. I've never loved a version of myself, but today I looked in the mirror and smiled. Thank you for reminding me that I am still in progress, and that's beautiful too. That night, Emma sat at the window, legs tucked under her, a glass of wine in her hand. Damien walked in, loosened his tie, and dropped onto the couch beside her. You slayed. She smirked. I didn't slay. I survived. Same thing, he whispered. Then gently, thank you for telling the truth, even when it scared me. Emma looked at him, and for the first time asked the question she used to fear. Would you have seen me before? Damien didn't lie. He took her hand and said, I don't know. I'd like to think I would have, but I know this. You're the only version I want now, because this version chose herself. Emma kissed him, soft, deep, no makeup, no cameras, just her. Later that week, she received a package. No return address. Inside, a framed photo, her before and after side by side, but across the top in gold foil lettering. She was never a before, she was always becoming. Emma placed it on her desk, next to her old badge, her bracelet, and a new sticky note she wrote herself. Becoming never ends, and that's the point. Section 7. The anniversary dress. 1 year later, she's stronger, lighter, braver, but there's still one version of herself she hasn't faced, until he brings it home in a box. The package arrived with no card, no logo, no designer ribbon, just a white box on the kitchen counter and a small yellow sticky note on top. Open when you're alone. Emma stared at it for a minute. She'd spent the whole day answering congratulatory messages. Year since your glow up, you look like a different person. Year goals, girl. It should have felt like a celebration, but instead, it felt like everyone was applauding a shell. No one saw the sweat, the loneliness, the therapy, the late night crying in the shower, the cravings, the self-doubt, the way she still sometimes pinched her arms when no one was looking. So yeah, today was complicated. She picked up the box and carried it to the bedroom. The apartment was quiet, too quiet, the kind that makes old ghosts stir. She opened the lid. Inside, a dress, emerald green. The dress, the same one she wore the night of the gala, the one that made the world see her. Only this time, it wasn't in a garment bag. It was folded, soft, familiar, and beneath it, a photo from the same night. Not the posed press image, not the viral version. Just one Damien had snapped on his phone when she wasn't looking. She was laughing, free, real, lit by fairy lights and confidence. Her eyes weren't asking for permission. They were daring the world to try her. And beneath the photo, a handwritten letter. in Damien's sharp, steady handwriting. Emma, 1 year ago, I saw you walk into a room you didn't think you belonged in and own it. I saw the fear in your eyes and the fire right behind it. And I thought, God, she doesn't even know yet. You've changed, yes, but not into someone new, into someone braver, louder, clearer. I got this dress refitted not because I want you to prove anything, but because I wanted you to see you've always been beautiful, but now you believe it too. Happy Becoming Day. D. Emma pressed the letter to her chest and let the tears come. Not sad ones, not scared ones, but the kind that felt like exhaling after holding your breath for years. That night she put on the dress again. Not to be seen, not for photos, just for her. She stood in front of the mirror and whispered, "You're still her, and you always were." When Damien came home, she was barefoot in the living room, spinning slowly to soft music, hair down, lips bare, face glowing. He stopped in the doorway. I didn't speak. Didn't need to. Emma looked over her shoulder and smiled. It still fits. Damien crossed the room, slipped his arms around her waist. No, he whispered, you fit it because you're the one who made it magic. They danced in silence. The living room warm, the past finally soft. And in that moment, there was no before, no after. Just Emma, exactly as she was. Exactly as she chose to be. Section 8. A letter to my old self. She spent her whole life running from that girl in the mirror, until now, when she finally sits down and writes to her with love, not shame. It started with a question. Simple. A podcast host had asked her during a pre-interview chat, if you could say one thing to the girl you used to be, what would it be? Emma didn't answer right away. She just smiled, said something polite, changed the subject. But that question followed her home. It followed her through dinner, through a walk, through brushing her teeth, through tucking herself under the blankets beside Damien. And even as his hand found hers under the sheets, she wasn't quite there. The next morning, while the city was still stretching and yawning, Emma pulled out her old notebook. The same one she used to journal in at 2 a.m. when the apartment was cold and the fridge was empty, and she was still answering phones at the wellness center. She flipped to a blank page, picked up a pen, and finally, wrote the letter she had spent years avoiding. Dear me, I used to hate you. I'm sorry, but it's true. I hated your thighs, your double chin, the way your arms looked in photos. I hated how much space you took up, physically, emotionally. I hated how you never felt small enough to be loved. But what I really hated was how much you still hoped, how you still believed love was coming, how you kept dressing up, even when the compliments didn't come, how you stayed soft, gentle, kind, even when the world tried to harden you. I see now, you were never the problem. Society told you that beauty had rules, that your worth was negotiable, that love had prerequisites, but they were wrong. You weren't too much. You were just enough, and you deserved love before you ever lost a pound. You didn't become worthy after. You were worthy when you cried yourself to sleep and still got up the next day. You were worthy when no one texted back, and you still made dinner for one. You were worthy when you bought jeans 2 sizes too small because maybe next month. You were worthy when you couldn't walk upstairs without gasping, but you still smiled at the neighbor. You were always worthy. You didn't fail. You survived. And now, I carry you with me. In every kind thing I say to my reflection. In every moment I show up, even when I'm scared. I don't want to erase you anymore. I want to honor you because you weren't the before. You were the beginning. Love. Emma closed the notebook and let the silence sit. The air felt lighter somehow. She looked out the window, where morning light was kissing the city awake. And for the first time in years, she didn't feel haunted by her past self. She felt held by her. Later that day, she read the letter on the podcast. Live. Her voice cracked on "You Were the Beginning." But she didn't edit it out. She let it shake. Because shaking doesn't mean weakness. It means something is finally moving. The letter spread like wildfire. It was reposted, quoted, tattooed. Women sent videos of themselves reading it to their teenage daughters. One woman read it out loud at her 60th birthday party. Another taped it to her hospital wall during chemo. Emma never expected her words to do that. She only wrote them to heal herself. But maybe that's why they mattered. Because they weren't curated. They were real. And real, it turns out, is what women were starving for. That night, she came home to find Damien cooking. Sort of. There was more smoke than food. She coughed and waved it away, laughing. He turned with a sheepish look and said, "The fire alarm's just part of the ambience." She wrapped her arms around him from behind and whispered, "Thank you for loving all my versions, even the one I couldn't love yet." He kissed her hand and said, "You're all the same woman to me. Just a little louder now." Section 9. When her body said rest. Emma spent a year becoming someone to everyone, but when her own body finally calls her home, she learns that healing isn't hustle and that self-worth doesn't need a stage. At first it felt like nothing, just exhaustion, the kind that clung to her skin like humidity, the kind that 8 hours of sleep couldn't fix, the kind she blamed on doing too much and not enough protein. But then came the dizzy spells, then the forgotten meetings, the bloated stomach, the headaches, the overwhelming urge to cry in the middle of Trader Joe's because they were out of almond milk. It wasn't burnout. It was her body waving a white flag. Damien noticed it first. The way she held her wrist a little too long. The way she pressed her palm to her lower stomach at night. "You okay?" he asked one night as she climbed into bed, slow and stiff. She nodded. Too quickly. Too falsely. "I'm just tired." But that wasn't the whole truth. The truth? Emma had spent a year saying yes. Yes to every podcast. Yes to every panel. Yes to every "you're so inspiring" that came with the weight of expectation. And now, her body was saying no. Loudly, and without apology. The diagnosis wasn't dramatic. Just real. Her doctor used words like adrenal fatigue, gut inflammation, extreme cortisol imbalance. "You've done too much, too fast," the doctor said gently. "Your body needs a break, not a spa weekend, a real one." Emma blinked. "But I'm not sick." "No," the doctor replied, "you're empty." Empty. That word sat with her on the subway ride home. She looked out the window as the city blurred by and whispered, "I've been so busy becoming, I forgot to just be." That night, she didn't post, didn't journal, didn't speak. She crawled into bed at 7:42 p.m. and cried into the pillow, not out of sadness, out of relief, because for the first time, she was going to stop performing her healing and start living it. Damian brought her soup the next morning. No questions, just presence. He kissed her forehead and said, "I canceled your next 3 events." Emma stared at him. "You need rest." "But no, but," he said, "you're not the story right now. You're the person who lived it, and you get to rest." So she did. For the first time in months. She stayed in pajamas for a week. Ate when she was hungry. Stopped tracking her workouts. Didn't say yes unless it felt like breathing. She rediscovered her books. Her silly love for crossword puzzles. Her mom's banana bread recipe. She gained a few pounds. And for the first time ever, didn't panic. Because now she knew. Her worth never lived in a number. It lived in how present she was with herself. One rainy morning, she and Damien lay on the couch, tangled in a blanket, a candle flickering nearby. She turned to him and whispered, "I thought I had to keep showing people I was okay." He pulled her close. "You don't owe anyone your healing. I think I forgot that resting is part of the work." He kissed her hair. "It's the bravest part." Emma didn't disappear from the world. She just returned to it differently. Slower, softer, smarter, and more in tune with the one voice that had been silenced the longest. Her own. Section 10. The mirror didn't cry this time. The mirror used to be her battlefield. Every morning it judged her. Every night it reminded her of the flaws, the weight, the hopes she wasn't sure she had a right to hold. It was never just glass. It was memory. It was shame. It was noise. But today was different. Emma didn't plan it. She was brushing her teeth, music playing softly in the background, wearing one of Damien's old sweatshirts and mismatched socks. Just another Tuesday morning. Ordinary. But when she turned to grab her moisturizer, she caught her reflection and paused. There she was. Hair messy, eyes still swollen with sleep, skin a little blotchy. No makeup, no edits, no filters, and somehow, for the first time in years, she didn't flinch. She tilted her head, stepped closer. No judgment, just curiosity. Like she was seeing herself not as a project, but as a person. A whole person. Strong, soft, present. And then it happened. Something so small it could have gone unnoticed. But to Emma, it was everything. She smiled. Not a performative smile. Not the one she used for cameras, or emails, or polite laughter. But a smile from her core. Gentle. Proud. Like her soul had reached out and said, "There you are." And the most stunning part, the mirror smiled back. No tears, no guilt, no longing, just peace. Damien walked in, rubbing sleep from his eyes. Saw her standing still, and paused. "What more could you ask?" he asked gently. Emma blinked, her voice caught in her throat. "Then, I didn't cry." He moved beside her. She looked back at the mirror and whispered, "I used to cry every time I looked at her." She touched her own reflection. "But today, I just said hi." Damien kissed the top of her head. "You've come a long way." She leaned into him. "I didn't know this kind of quiet was possible." "It is," he said. "You just had to make enough room for it." That day, Emma wrote something in her journal. Self-love doesn't always show up loud. Sometimes it shows up when you don't wince at the mirror. Sometimes it's wearing baggy clothes and not apologizing for comfort. Sometimes self-love is silence and peace in your own skin. She didn't post it online, didn't share it in a story. It was hers, and that was enough. In the days that followed, she moved a little differently. She caught herself humming while washing dishes, buying herself flowers just because, sitting in the sun for no other reason than she wanted to. When people asked if she was back, she smiled. Because she was never gone. She'd just been underground, growing new roots. That weekend, she and Damien went out dancing. Not a gala, not a charity ball, just a little Latin jazz bar where the lights were dim and the music was loud and no one cared what you looked like when you laughed too hard. Emma danced barefoot halfway through the night. Hair wild, dress clinging to her the way sunlight clings to water. And when she caught her reflection in the bar's mirror, mid-laugh, flushed and alive, she didn't look away. She winked. Section 11. What the scale never told her. They were halfway through brunch when the comment dropped. It wasn't cruel. Not on purpose. Just casual. Flippant. Thrown out between bites of avocado toast and sips of mimosa. "You must be what, like at your goal weight by now?" Emma blinked. Her fork paused halfway to her mouth. She looked across the table at Jenna, an old friend from her receptionist days, one of the few people who knew Emma before the green dress, before the panels, before Damien. There was no venom in Jenna's voice, just assumption, conditioning, as if there was a number Emma had been racing toward, and anything above it meant failure. Emma set her fork down slowly, felt the air shift inside her chest, and suddenly, she wasn't in a brunch cafe anymore. She was in her old apartment, sweatpants cutting into her waist, weighing herself in the dark at 5 a.m., hoping the number would be kinder, crying into a towel because it wasn't, eating celery for dinner and calling it discipline, all to chase a number that had never once said, "I love you, I see you, you are enough." Jenna didn't notice the silence. She was still talking. "You look amazing though, I mean, honestly, you've inspired me to try Noom again." Emma nodded faintly, then reached for her water, and finally spoke. "Jenna," she said gently, "can I tell you something?" Her friend blinked, surprised by the softness. "Of course. I don't own a scale anymore." Jenna tilted her head. "Wait, seriously?" Emma smiled. Not defensively, just free. "Yeah, I got rid of it months ago." "But how do you track anything?" Emma leaned back in her chair and said the thing she never thought she'd be able to say. "I don't track. I trust. I trust how I feel when I wake up. I trust how my clothes hug me. I trust when I'm tired, when I'm strong, when I'm full. The scale never told me I was loved, or creative, or loyal. It just told me how much space I took up. But I've learned to take up space with joy, not shame." Jenna sat back, visibly emotional, and whispered, "I still weigh myself every morning." Emma reached across the table, held her hand. "I used to, for 10 years. I thought it made me strong, but all it did was make me small." That afternoon, Emma wrote a blog post titled, "What the Scale Never Told Me." It read, "It never told me I was brave. It never clapped when I chose kindness over control. It never celebrated the morning I ate a real breakfast without guilt. It never noticed when I laughed so hard my sides hurt. It never praised the muscles I built in my heart, not my arms. The scale never told me I was healing. I had to learn to tell myself. Now, I don't chase numbers. I chase peace." The post went viral. Again, not because it was polished, but because it was honest. And honesty, Emma had learned, was the rarest kind of beauty. That night she walked into the bedroom to find Damien folding laundry. In one of her t-shirts, hair a mess, humming off-key. She slipped her arms around his waist from behind and said, "I don't think I've ever loved my life this quietly." He turned in her arms, tucked her hair behind her ear, and whispered, "You didn't get smaller, Emma. You got wider. Your heart, your presence, your impact. You didn't shrink to be loved. You expanded to love yourself." And for the first time in her life, she finally believed it. Section 12, Becoming Never Ends. Emma returns to where it all began, only to realize she never needed to escape who she was. She just needed to come home to herself. The old apartment was smaller than she remembered. The ceilings lower, the light dimmer. The kitchen still had that stubborn stain on the linoleum by the fridge. It hadn't changed much. But she had. Emma stood in the middle of the room, arms crossed, her breath catching for reasons she couldn't name yet. It had been exactly 2 years since she left this place. Back then she'd carried out a single duffel bag, a crushed dream, and a whisper of self-worth barely hanging on. She thought she was leaving her shame behind. But today, she'd returned not to revisit pain, but to thank it. The landlord had emailed her out of the blue. "New tenant moved out, thought you might want to grab anything you left behind." She almost deleted it. But something told her, go. Not to reclaim anything, just to remember. She moved slowly through each room, touched the chipped corner of the desk where she used to write job applications, ran her fingers along the windowsill where her plants always died, opened the tiny closet where her gold jeans had once hung, taunting her. She laughed now, not bitterly, just softly, because she remembered the girl who used to beg for a different life. And today that girl had one. In the cabinet above the sink, she found a small, torn notepad, the kind she used to write affirmations on. Most of them were gone, but one page remained. Wrinkled, faded, still legible. "You are becoming, even if no one claps." She sat on the floor, right there in the kitchen, and cried, not for what was lost, but for what she finally understood. Becoming was never about arriving. It was about returning. Later that evening, Damien met her on the stoop. She was sitting there in a hoodie, knees pulled to her chest, eyes red, but peaceful. He sat beside her, didn't say a word, just waited, until she finally whispered, "I didn't hate this place. I just hated how small I felt inside it." He nodded, and then said something that stayed with her forever. "You outgrew the pain, but you never had to outgrow her." She looked at him, confused. He explained, "The girl you were here, she was never weak. She was never broken. She was brave enough to start." Emma took his hand, laced their fingers together. "I'm gonna write her a note. To say goodbye?" "No," she said. "To say thank you." She walked back upstairs. One final time, sat at the old desk, pulled the last piece of paper from the notepad, and wrote, "Dear me, from 2 years ago. You don't know this yet, but one day you'll wake up and smile into a mirror. Not because it says you've made it, but because you finally know you were never broken. You'll fall in love. With a man, yes. But more importantly, with your own life. You'll dance barefoot. You'll eat pasta without guilt. You'll rest without apology. And you'll realize you didn't become someone else. You became more of yourself. Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for holding the line. I love you. Me." She folded the letter, taped it to the inside of the kitchen cabinet door, where the next girl might find it. Maybe not today, maybe not tomorrow, but someday, when she needs it most. As Emma walked out of the apartment for the last time, she didn't look back. She didn't need to. She was carrying every version of herself forward, not as baggage, but as proof. Becoming isn't a finish line. It's a practice, a promise, a quiet daily act of showing up for yourself. The mirror won't always smile back. The world won't always applaud. But that doesn't mean you're not becoming. It means you're living. And that's the most beautiful thing you'll ever grow into. The end.
Thank you for watching today's CEO Love Stories. Every love story is a journey. One filled with passion, ambition, sacrifice, and unforgettable moments. Here at CEO Love Stories, we bring you the most compelling tales where power, success, and love collide. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget, like to support more incredible content. Comment your thoughts. Can love overcome power and ambition? Subscribe and turn on notifications, so you never miss our next breathtaking romance. CEO Love Stories, where love and power collide. Because love isn't just a feeling, it's a choice. See you in the next story.